I call Jono Naylor.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and it's a pleasure to rise and take a call on this bill. It's been a pretty entertaining afternoon, actually. We've heard people with hearing problems, unfortunately it seems, who've been picking up wrong numbers, and I'm going to correct them a little bit on that, and I'll sort that out for them as I go through this speech. But I particularly want to talk about this program in the context of everything else that this government is doing. This program again shows the commitment of this government. This bill reflects the plans and the ideals behind this government and wanting to help our young people who need the help the most to be able to achieve goals, dreams, aspirations. And Mr Speaker, I'm aspirational. I want to see our young people succeed. I want to see them achieve everything they are capable of doing, and that is exactly what is behind this bill. It's not paternalistic, it's empowering, and I'll talk about that further as we go through. But when new programs are introduced, as this initial program was back in 2012, thank you very much. That's exactly when it was introduced. It's important before you make any changes or tinker with it at all that you assess these things before you make judgments. It's appropriate. And we have had some early assessment done of this program, and I think it's been really interesting that it's been talked about already this afternoon that perhaps we should wait until there's this big longitudinal study done so we can find out what the long-term effects of this program are before we do anything else with it. And it just seemed bizarre to me that, considering that this is a program that is hopefully going to help our young people for many years to come, we should ensure that we are assessing as we go. And that's exactly what was done in 2014 with this youth service evaluation report that was done by the Ministry of Social Development. And let's look at some of the key findings within that. What we discovered was in the first 12 months of enrolment in the youth service, youth payment and young parent payment, participants were more likely to gain NCEA credits. Well, I think that's a pretty positive thing. I think it's important that we have things in place that are going to get our young people getting more NCEA credits. Our young people and participants in this programs are more likely to meet the requirements of NCEA Level 2 within their first 12 months within this youth service. We've been able to look at that. We've been able to see that that is occurring, and everyone would agree, I'm sure, that the more young people we have within our communities who have NCEA Level 2, then the better their opportunities for success, better their opportunities for meaningful employment, better their opportunities to be able to raise their children in a way that they will be proud of. Mr Speaker, it is important that we recognise that this program has been working for our 16 to 18-year-olds. And so it's, I think, we need to, there's been a little bit of talk around this House about people being out of touch and people not connecting with young people. Well, I can say, Mr Speaker, that I was privileged, along with the Prime Minister, to visit with one of our community service providers a month or so ago, and it was actually quite interesting to talk to a young woman there who has been a part of this program. She was somebody who had a young child. I think she was about 17 years old, and she was working her way towards getting her Level 2 credits. And I thought that's fantastic, because in the past, often somebody in her situation might have been sitting at home, not because they wanted to, but because they lacked the support around them, they lacked the encouragement, they lacked the resources to be able to get out and get on and move forward with their lives. But what was most encouraging about speaking to this young woman was that Level 2 NCEA was not where she was hoping to stop. No, this young woman, having been in an environment where she was seeing early childhood educators working, was absolutely committed to wanting to further her studies to become an early childhood educator. When we talk to these people, when you get alongside them and you find out the positive impact that programs such as this are having on them, it is fantastic to hear. It's encouraging to hear, and it gives us the motivation and the interest to say, well, if it's working for this group of people, why don't we look at helping out some more people as well, which is exactly what we're doing by extending this program through to 19-year-olds as well. Now, I think we need to remind ourselves who it is that this program is for. This is for those parents who are in the age bracket that we're talking about, and we're also talking about 18 and 19-year-olds who are considered at significant risk of long-term welfare dependency. Now, I heard Sue Moroney kind of talking, words that she used were before, were that we were sort of going to shift some blame onto these young people. We're not blaming them for the situation that they find themselves in. But what we want to do is we want to empower them to be able to have the skills and the education and the support to be able to get out of the situation that they find themselves in. There's been talk about putting labels on them and how this isn't fair. It's a crazy situation to me, where we hear almost, it's like people are saying, because you can't do this for absolutely everybody, you shouldn't do this for some people. What we are doing, Mr. Speaker, is we are identifying those young people who we think are going to have the longest term risk of being on benefit for a long period of time, to make sure, where possible, that that is not the outcome they're looking for. There are not too many young people that I've come across in my experience in youth work and working with young people who've told me that their aspiration is to be on a benefit for most of their lives. It's not what people aspire to do. And so, Mr. Speaker, we are going to put these programs in place to help them. As with the current service, young people who are referred to the service are going to be required to undertake budgeting courses and have budgeting conversations with their youth coach. And yes, there are some obligations on them. I think that's not a bad thing sometimes when people do have a few obligations that they have to meet. But I think, and this is the sad part, hopefully Sue Moroney will listen to this before she leaves, because she said that the $10 to $30 a week that they might receive was laughable. Her words were laughable.
Point of order, Steve Moroney.
I know the member hasn't been here long, but the reference to someone's absence or not in the chamber is not acceptable in his speech.
No, what he said was before the member leaves. He didn't say that you were absent, which you'd be right if that was the case. So, Joan O'Naylor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and if I've caused some offence by that, I apologise. But this is the important thing that I want to draw attention to, because Sue Moroney said that it was laughable, her words, laughable, about the $10, the extra that somebody was going to get. Well, I can say, Mr. Speaker, that when I was raising a young family while I was on the student allowance, when I spent some time on our family, when we were trying to have a couple of young kids, and we were on a sickness benefit, if someone said to me, here's an extra $10 a week, well, I would not have found that laughable. And I don't think that the beneficiaries in our community now would actually find it laughable to be getting an extra $10 a week. Because if you're struggling to get by on a week-to-week basis, when you're struggling to pay the groceries, when you're struggling on a benefit, because we all know that it is not an easy thing to do, when you're trying hard to budget, if somebody said $10 was laughable, I would find that insulting, and I think those people would find it insulting that the member who referred to it in that way was so out of touch with the plight of the people that we're talking about. Mr. Speaker, I know my time is almost up, but I just want to come back to this last point. This is a cost-effective program, and we know that for every dollar spent on the existing youth service, taxpayers' liability is reduced by $2.53. Now, Eugenie Sage, when she was talking earlier, she sort of talked about this in a way that was perhaps negative. I can't understand how somebody would think that investing now up front to be able to save the government and money in the long term was negative. And she talked about it like the government was trying to save its own money. Well, I'm sorry, Mr. Speaker, but we don't have our own money. The only money we have is that money which has been given to us, sometimes not particularly willingly, by the taxpayers of this country, and it's beholden on us to make sure that we invest that money, that we spend that money in the way that it's going to deliver the very best outcome for those people. Mr. Speaker, as I said earlier, I'm aspirational for these young people in our communities. I want to see them do really, really well. I think they can can do more. And I think that we can get behind them with these youth services, and by expanding them out to include those 18 and 19-year-olds who currently are missing out on the ability to be able to participate in this very, very good program. By extending it, Mr. Speaker, we are helping more people. We're not blaming people. We are not looking down on people. We are empowering them, and I really look forward to us helping more and more of them. Thank you.